Thank you all for getting on the stream. We're starting a little late tonight, later than normal. We're about 30 minutes late, in fact. That's all right. The message is not late. We might be late, but the message is on time. This is what I need you to do. reach out to whoever you can in terms of who was scheduled to come onto the stream, and just in case they didn't see that the time was changed, I'm going to give it a few minutes. I'm going to give it a little longer than normal, just to give them time to get onto the stream, only because of the importance of the stream, and I appreciate you doing that. Just reach out, find out, see who was actually scheduled to come onto the stream tonight, and if you can, just kind of send them a reminder via instant message or other means. Appreciate it. To the moderator, can you hear me clearly? Just put a warning in the chat room, just in case you can't hear me and there's some type of technical difficulties in terms of the sound of my voice. If you can hear me, put a warning in the chat room. I appreciate it. Awesome, thank you, Gail. Shout out to Aisha. Good to see you on the stream. All right, let's get into it. Now, as I do occasionally with every single stream, I won't default in doing that tonight. I'm going to give. We're going to take a short pause to give, just to give some credit and to give some acknowledgement to the late great Kevin Samuels. He's the one that I guess was the forerunner of these talking points. I don't think anybody was doing it to this magnitude, where they were actually speaking out and putting forth information as it related to relationships. So I always tend to give him the respect due. Kevin Samuels died May the 5th. He passed away May the 5th, 2022. But for 3 to 3.5 years, he had these talking points. Many women have been married as a result of him and his influence on the talking points. Many relationships have been rekindled as a result. Relationships that were doomed to fail, they rekindled. Women took accountability for the part that they played in relationships that was destroying their marriages and destroying their relationship in and of itself. And with that being said, there's no way that I can ever do these talking points, regardless of how much information that I know, without giving him the acknowledgement due. So shout out to Kevin Samuels. Right after this, we'll be getting started. Again, thank you for all that jumped on the stream. I appreciate you. I trust that everyone has had a fantastic weekend thus far. Beg my pardon for being late tonight. I'm coming from out of town and, can't be in two places at the same time. So I got back as quickly as I possibly could. Because I believe I was going to reschedule it for another day, but I believe the topic is too important, so it's been on my mind all day. I mean, all day, since about 5:30, 6 o'clock this morning. So I think it's important enough, and that's why we had to do it tonight. So thank you for your time and your patience, and thank you for all that got on the stream tonight.
can't stop me. 'Cause I'm addicted to what you and I realize. Either way, I follow. No need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of it all. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one. Yeah. So set the bar high before the moment flies. So tell your good night, 'cause I'll find a better one. So set the bar high before the moment flies.
Let's get into it. Shout out to the late great Kevin Samuels. We have an interesting topic tonight, folks. For the ladies that hear the stream at its in real time during the live that I'm doing right now, I want you to try your very best to put your emotions to the side and think with non-emotion. Listen with a critical ear, and listen to understand and not simply to respond emotionally or verbally. I think the best outcome will come as a result of the talking points that I'm going to have tonight, because they're serious, very serious, very serious as to relate to our community and our women going forward. Again, I thank you for getting on the stream tonight. You see the topic: Black men don't cheat for sex. They simply don't. Now, what I didn't add to the title is what I knew would get you to look at the title and become intrigued. Black men don't cheat for sex alone. Let's get into it. All right. The notion, I want you to listen to me. The notion that men cheat for sex alone is not accurate when considering that every situation has a cause and an effect. The act of infidelity, although destructive and extremely painful for the one being cheated on, cannot be discussed without noting the underlying cause: emotional absence, transparent deficiency in a committed relationship and or marriage. Okay? And I want you to know, ladies, as a disclaimer with this particular stream, it is not to imply that cheating from either side is acceptable, because it's not, or that it's right. This stream is only to give another perspective for women to consider, and to hopefully own the part you may play, or the part that you may have played leading up to the outcomes so many of our women have experienced and continue to experience today. Infidelity and all of its demons that it releases into every relationship. It comes with its own set of fears, tears, insecurities, and setbacks that are designed to speak and expose the voids in either person's involved. And I can't begin to speak about the infidelity as it relates to committed relationships and or marriages without addressing us, the men. That's right. This is for brothers that end up getting on this stream either now or later. I need you to listen as well. I couldn't do it without talking to the men first, since this is whom you are affected by going forward. I want you to listen. Okay? This is an early dysfunction that's nurtured. More often than not, we as men have been miseducated about the real meaning of what defines a man, much less what defines a committed relationship. And as a result, this lack of education has left many women damaged, mentally ill, on meds, on psych medication, unable to pair bond, and completely unmarriageable on both sides. Now let's talk about the bullet points of this miseducation first among us as men. Here's one: early high level of promiscuity. How do I know that? I was one of those guys. Early high levels of promiscuity. Feelings of false masculinity due to numerous sexual conquests. Often blatant disregard for the consequences of unprotected sex as it relates to childbirth or STDs. Okay? Emotional disconnect from the women that he's intimate with, and an inability as well to pair bond, just to name a few. Let's talk about the ladies, women, black women in particular. Insecurities that run deep, I mean real deep, with the potential to last for many, many, many years, spilling over into new relationships. Normalizing verbal abuse, normalizing physical abuse, normalizing sexual abuse, confusing sex for love, and their mothering instincts that should come natural, they're thwarted, just to name a few. Now, why is this important to outline? Because if we think that the things that happen to us, be it positive or negative, happen in a vacuum and that there is no underlying cause which leads to an effect, then we're delusional. Every action has an equal yet opposite reaction. So we're not without accountability as to whatever happens with us, because life is about choices and trade-offs. Many of us, men and women, we've made choices. Oh, no doubt. We've made some positive ones and we've made some negative ones. But what has been the trade-off? I want to talk to you tonight about why black men don't cheat for sex alone. So that perhaps my hopes is that ladies, women, our women, black women in particular, can begin to look at the outcomes that they have received that were not favorable, that you didn't plan for. Some of you that are 30, 35, you didn't plan to be where you are today. That wasn't your plan. If you're 35 and above and 45 and 50, this wasn't your plan. This wasn't your plan. Now I want you to take note of the individuals that I spoke of in the beginning. I'm talking about those of us that are men that have been miseducated. You know who we're talking about, ladies? We're talking about the Pookies. We're talking about the Nug-Nugs. We're talking about the Tim-Tims. We're not talking about marriage-minded men. Oh, not at all. See, because marriage-minded men had a different type of education. The problem lies in what's available once they're prepared mentally, emotionally for marriage, and in what's left. I can't say that without reading off some stats, data, and statistics. 80% of all households, first of all, are headed by a female. That's obviously meaning that there is no male present. And oftentimes, the men, the young men who are the sons in that situation are given the emotional dysfunction of the mother. She doesn't mean to do it. And in many cases, she doesn't even realize that she's doing it, either directly or indirectly. But children, I should say, children, they're only designed to be like sponges. They absorb information before they can ever articulate and understand how to process the information. They absorb it first. You don't begin to see the effects of the information until they reach middle school years, latter elementary school years at its earliest, and at its latest, mid-high school years. For women, it can become very destructive, because if the information is toxic or destructive, what happens to them, they begin to mimic the behavior of their mothers. The behavior of their mothers may be based on or rooted in their own pain. Again, you heard what I said in the initial part of the stream. I said that women that become exposed to men who have been miseducated, they suffer dysfunctions that run deep, pain that runs deep, that could last for many, many years, which results in them misunderstanding the whole concept of relationships, much less intimacy. So with that misunderstanding comes their normalizing of verbal abuse, their normalizing of physical abuse, their normalizing of even sexual abuse, to where they then begin to confuse sex for love. You know, and I know, we've seen that in every community. It's running rampant in most black communities. Many of you who are my age, you've lived it. Not only have you lived it, you've done it. So we know that what I'm saying is absolutely accurate in terms of what we see when we look outside our windows and outside our doors, and as we move about in our day-to-day. We know it exists. Why is that a problem? And why is that important to outline? That's so important to outline. Again, because in a committed relationship and or marriage, these same dysfunctions spill over into the new relationship. And what's been made toxic and what's been made so taboo in the black community is a thing called therapy. I mean, some of us, in fact, I could take some out. All of us need to sit on, in most cases, somebody's couch. Oh yeah, and not your couch at home. Some of us needs to sit on a therapeutic couch and get the necessary introspect about ourselves from an objective standpoint that will allow us to be honest with someone who does not know us, who has no fight in the game. You know, they have nothing to gain by telling you specifically or myself the truth. That's the couch I'm talking about. Not the couch of your auntie who's also single. No, I'm not talking about her. Not your mother who's also single. No, I'm not talking about her. Not your girlfriend that you work with who's also single. No, I'm not talking about her. I'm not talking about your coworker who's single. No, I'm not talking about them. Why? Because they may be a product of everything that I'm talking about. So what advice can they give you? You've often heard me in several streams in the past. I said, single women keep single women single. So you know you can't take that advice. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's like asking a plumber to fix your electricity. It's a no-brainer. But oftentimes, at least in today's society today, many of you ladies, you ask the wrong people for advice. So how does all of this fall into play with what the subject title is, Black Men Don't Cheat for Sex? I'm glad you asked, because I'm eager to tell you. Black men as a whole do not cheat for sex. I'm talking about not, again, have to put it out there. I'm not talking about Pookie. I'm not talking about Nug Nug, and I'm not talking about Tim Tim. I'm talking about marriage-minded men, marriage-minded women. Marriage-minded men do not cheat for sex. I'm gonna just let you sit on that for just a second. Marriage-minded men, if they cheat, more often than not, it's usually to fill a void that's missing within their current relationship. What do men want? What do women, what is women's purpose in the earth, and what is a man's purpose in the earth? These are two things that often go unknown in our community. We have never been taught what is the purpose of a man and what is the purpose of a woman. If you don't know the purpose of either, you also don't know the real purpose of relationships. Why? Because a man's job in the earth by nature is to build, to protect, and then also provide. That's it. What is your purpose, ladies? Your purpose is to be a helpmeet. That's it. Now here's where the problem lies. If we don't know what our purpose is, obviously we can't fulfill the obligations of our purpose in the earth. Therein lies the dysfunction. If a man doesn't know why he's in the earth, and he's taught simply that sex alone and the conquest of sex and the number of how many conquests of sex he can achieve will determine whether he's a man or not, you already know the outcomes cannot be positive. And likewise, if a woman is taught that the only valuable thing she has is between her legs, not what's between her ears, but what's between her legs is all she has that is valuable, and then she's taught with dysfunction that means love. We can see this manifesting itself in our community. We see it, and we've been seeing it for years. For years. The divorce rate in the United States is 80 to 85%, most of which is filed by black women. I'm talking about our community. Of that same number, between 80 to 85% of all engagements are also called off by our women. And I know what some of you are saying. We called it off because of all the things you just mentioned. I know. You also called it off because you didn't know who you were and what your place was in the earth. He didn't know either, but the choice still remains. Again, what I said, the earth, what I've said in previous streams, the world does not owe myself nor you understanding. Not at all. Nor does it owe us sympathy for the decisions that we make, because life is about people and life is also about choices and trade-offs. What have we traded off? Many of us have traded off years and years of bad decisions. Years that we can never get back. I mean, never. It would be nice if God said, you know, if you mess up the life I gave you, don't worry. I'll give you a second life. You know, like the video games that we play. If you get killed in the game, you can get a second or a third or a fourth life. Unfortunately, in real life, we only get one. So, but if God gave us a second life, then we could make excuses. And we could say, you know, I made a mistake. I was young. I was dumb. Reality does not agree with that idea. The reality is we only have one. If we, as men and as women, don't learn to take accountability for the things and the decisions that we have made that brought us the bad outcomes that we've received, then we're never going to heal as a community. We're never going to heal as it relates to relationships, and we will always look to find someone else to put the blame on. I've always said to you ladies that accountability is like acid reflux. It's like kryptonite. We all know what kryptonite did to Superman. The closer he was to it, the weaker he got. Your accountability, ladies, has made you weaker and weaker and weaker at making decisions that can get you the outcomes that you say you want. Let me say this. A man has two authorities in the earth. He has the authority and the power to choose relationships and marriage. A woman has the authority and the power in the earth to choose access to her body and childbirth. If this is true, and it is, then every decision that you have made, ladies, as it relates to childbirth, has been directly related to your decision, in many cases, to have unprotected sex. With unprotected sex comes the high possibility of pregnancy. And with pregnancy, you already know, the high possibility is childbirth. If that's true, and you know that it is, then if you don't know who you are and what exactly it is that you want, how can you make the right decision? How can you? And I'm speaking directly to those of you who are in relationships or those of you that are married. I just said to you, 80% of all divorces are filed by black women. And of that same number, 80% of all engagements are called off also by black women. 51% of all black men in this country, I've mentioned it over and over, are single and childless. Of that 80% of women that are giving birth to children out of wedlock and who grow up in a single parent home, only 20% of men in the country that are black are fathering these children. If you sit and think carefully to yourself, the math, you know that the problem is not black men solely. The problem is, in fact, you. Now, we're not, again, I got to keep throwing it there. We're not talking about Pookie. Oh, no. Because Pookie doesn't get married. We're not talking about Nug Nug. Nug Nug is still standing on the corner. He's definitely not getting married. And Tim Tim, you might as well forget it. He's not thinking about getting married either. We're talking about real live marriages, where what comes with every marriage is the ebbs and flows of marriage, the ups and downs of marriage. But with dysfunction also comes bad behavior. Dysfunction brings about its own set of fears, insecurities, setbacks. Most of you ladies operate in what I like to call fear, scarcity, and lack. This is why when a lot of you ladies get married, you put a hyphen between your last name and the last name of your husband. What is that really all about? I'm glad you asked. Because the scripture, and I'm not being, this is not a religious channel, but those of you that say you're Christian, I want to say this to you. Scripture says, first of all, I'm going to start with this one. He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. Then you have to ask yourself the question, are you a good thing? The second thing is that you should leave your parents' house, and I'm paraphrasing. Cling on to your husband and you should become one, right? Those of you that are extremely astute in scripture, you know how to word that. You know where I'm going. If that's true, what does that really mean? It means you fall from under the authority of your dad, of your father. And you're then transferring the power that your father had with you to the power of the man that you marry, and then you become one, right? Why is divorce at an 80 to 85% rate in the black community? Why is that? I mean, we all take the same vows. We take the same vows that most of us that are in the black community who get married and remain married for 80, 45, and 50 years, right? We take the same vow. Where is the difference in between the ones that make it and the ones that don't? Again, I'm glad you asked. Here is the difference. The lack of accountability. The lack of the inability to take responsibility for bad behavior. If you, again, like I said, if you overtalk your man, that's the first sign of disrespect. If you're not feminine, but you're in your masculine. If you're not fit, if you're not friendly, if you're not easy to get along with, if you're a great adventure that's not so great, you're already creating an issue and a problem in your relationship that is not sustainable. If you're not a good experience, you already created a condition, a situation, a circumstance that's not sustainable. So how do we fix that? And what is that all about? And what does that mean? How does that translate into black men don't cheat for sex? When a man walks out in a committed relationship and seeks the attention of the opposite sex other than yourself, sex in and of itself, he can get that from you. Why is he seeking it outside? Do you really believe that it's simply sex? And if you do, that's removing yourself from accountability. A lot of you ladies are emotionally unavailable. You're physically present, yes, in the relationship, but you're emotionally unavailable. When you're emotionally unavailable, what translates to a man is that he's not valuable any longer. And as he translates that he's not valuable to you any longer, and that you're not excited about his presence any longer, when he walks in the door, you're still in your same mode that you were before he arrived. But now you're home. Did you give your boss the same behavior? I think not. The whole objective in a marriage is for you to serve your husband, right? To get on his agenda and to get on his program. If you cannot do that, what happens? There's a breakdown in the machine. As the breakdown in the machine begins to deteriorate, he's seeking attention somewhere else for the same void that he's not getting with you. And with that void comes consequences. With that void comes trade-offs. Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Again, as I was saying, with that decision comes consequences and trade-offs. Many of us, both of us, on both sides, we've made trade-offs in our life, many of which we can't take back. But again, like I said earlier in the stream, the world owes neither one of us any understanding. We look for understanding always in the wrong places before we look for accountability within ourselves, to take accountability for the decisions that we make. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna try to walk you through some things. Like, if a man's job is to protect you, and if a man's job is to provide for you, and if a man's job is to build, then you have to find out. It's your job. It's like going to a place of employment. You look for the core values of the company. You want to know what is their company objectives. And all too often in every relationship, ladies, you don't go into the relationship trying to find out or even being curious about what your husband's objectives are. What is his core values? Right? Where is he trying to go? What is he trying to build? If he's not trying to build anything, if he's not going anywhere, then you need to know this in the beginning. You know what that's called in the business world? That's called vetting. This is what happens in an interview. When you go to interview, you're being vetted for that position based on questions asked to you, And your response to said questions will determine whether you are a good fit for that company's objectives, goals, and where they're trying to go. Why? Because they're trying to build. Is it not equally as important, if not more, in the most important decision that you're going to make as it relates to relationships, and that's marriage? Absolutely. But all too often, what our ladies do, what you ladies do, you give the best gift to a man before you vet him. Before you vet him. And if you give him the best gift before you vet him, then what it does for you going forward, if in fact you've not vetted him and he is a pookie, or he is a nug-nug, or Tim-Tim, finally years later you improve, you become a better person. And in your mind you believe because you've become a better person, you deserve something better, right? I want you to ask yourself a question. If you believe you deserve something better, going into a brand new relationship, how is it fair to walk into a new relationship carrying in tow? I don't want you ladies to get triggered, but I want you to listen. How is it fair carrying in tow children that do not belong to him? I've said in previous streams that ended with my generation. I'm sorry, sisters, ladies, it ended in my generation. Today, that's almost non-existent. So you see how the dynamics hurt the new relationship, because you bring not only your decisions from the past, but you also bring a baggage of damage, a baggage of disappointment, a baggage of setbacks, a baggage of betrayal, a baggage of lies, a baggage of hurt. You bring it into a new relationship. And as a result, can you really actively, in a positive way, perform for the new man that you say you want and not run the risk of losing that relationship? Can you? I mean, we got to be realistic. Can you? It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be extremely difficult, because how you'll act, whether conscious or subconscious, it's going to come out in your past experiences with the new man. And oftentimes, ladies, you come into new relationships with the ghost of relationships past. You don't come in new. You don't come in reformed, renewed, none of that. You bring in your old self, hoping that you'll be fixed in the new relationships. And truth be told, men don't want to fix. They just simply want to build. They don't want to fix. I'm talking about any man that's worth his salt. I'm not talking about Pookie, Nug, and Ray. You know what I mean? You remember you remember the ones I told you about. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about the ones that are still suffering from miseducation in the past about what defines manhood. No, I'm not talking about them either. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about sisters who have also been a product of that same miseducation, and they're struggling with pains and hurts that can last them for the next 35 to 40 years. I'm really not talking about them either. But I had to start the stream off by using those two examples so that you'll see how it trickles down into what we see right now. I had to use that. So that in the event that you find yourself in a situation that's not favorable, you'll know where the accountability is to be taken. And until we do that, going forward, there's no real future for a productive, meaningful relationship at all. For you or for him. We are better together than we are apart. And if that's true, and it is, then how do we change the dynamics, the negative outcomes that's taking place in our community? You know, how do we do that? it takes it takes accountability on both sides, truly. But for you ladies, it takes accountability as well. Because us men, us as men, the consumer of you, the end product, we come to take you. That's what we do. The next question is, what are we taking? And what are you asking with each encounter? Are you asking the right questions? I've said in previous streams, dating in and of itself is stupid. Without purpose, you're really wasting your time. If he's dating you and he's not looking to be married, he's wasting his time. If you are dating and you don't wish to be married or in a committed relationship, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. So what is it for? What is the purpose? What is the purpose? If you want different outcomes, it's going to always require a different attitude, a different set of behavior on both sides. It's going to require a different understanding of what your purpose is. Understanding what he is, what he wants, who he is, what his purpose in the earth is, and more importantly, what yours is in the earth. That will not change. That will not change. Whether you hear it from me or another content creator like me, it will not change. I just came from Atlantic City. And I'll tell you something. Since last year when I went, and the year prior to that, I saw more interracial couples and marriages than I've seen in previous times past. Now, do I have an issue with interracial marriage? Absolutely not. But what do I desire primarily? I desire to see us together. Although I'm not discriminatory about us in interracial marriages, no. But I'm a black man, so obviously I want to see us together as black couples, absolutely. But I don't want to see any of us together if it's dysfunctional with the one life that we have. With the one life that we have. I don't believe it's worth you sacrificing the one life you have simply because we are black. No. That's not who I am. I don't subscribe to that. I believe we should be happy regardless and be secure in the relationships we want and desire and get the best outcomes regardless of who it is. However, my priority is to see us together. That's how our community grows and thrives. That's how. As I close, I want to close off on this point. Men don't cheat for sex. You know what they cheat for, ladies? They cheat for femininity. Far too many of you are too masculine, too aggressive, too disrespectful, too opinionated, too loud, too emotionally constipated in your relationships. And as a result, neither one of you can really come together. So over time, what happens? You make a lot of babies, but over time, you practically don't even know who each other are in the room. You bypass each other like leaves in the wind. And there's an emotional disconnect. When it comes to intercourse, there's no emotion involved. It's just going through the motions. And many of us live years in relationships like that. Some of you are living in relationships like that right now. I will say to you this. If you are being verbally abused, emotionally abused, sexually abused, physically abused, leave. Leave. Don't try to fix a situation like that. I'm not talking about that kind of situation. I'm talking about those of you who find yourself with an imperfect human being, such as your committed relationship or your marriage. And you find yourself with an imperfect individual. You know, the one he's with, you. Imperfect relationship as well. If you find yourself both imperfect, can we learn to give each other the grace to be imperfect? To not just be so quick to throw away our relationships based on one or two indiscretions. If you have made an investment in your relationship, I'm talking years of an investment in your marriage or your committed relationship, that calls for investment, not just time, but years, and financial investment as well. If you've done that, I want you to look at it from another perspective. If you had a bank account that you've made a lot of investments into, would you just let someone come and steal your investment without no recourse of action? Would you? I think not. You'd fight like hell to protect your investment. Because why? If someone can just come steal it and you just relinquish with no fight, no resistance, just emotion, get mad, get angry at the bank, why'd you let them take it? But yet you did no other action to retrieve what was taken from you. You didn't do that, then you deserve to lose what you lost. But I think most would fight, hire lawyers and everything else. To why? Retrieve something materialistic. Someone stole your car, you call law enforcement. Why? Because you made an investment in that car. Somebody, the bank seeks to take your home. You would fight to keep your home. Would you not? I think you would. Why? Because you made too many years of an investment into that home. These are materialistic things, ladies. Some of you have walked away from your husband because he had an indiscretion. What? He cheated. Okay. Here's my question to you. First, how did you find out? Did you look through his phone? How did you find out? Did you go into his computer and search? How did you find out? Did you go through his pants pocket, his suit jacket, his suit pants, his shoes, his socks, his underwear drawer, his shirt and t-shirt drawer? How exactly did you find out? And if you found out like that, you were digging for problems that before you found it did not exist. So many of us, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, you live in fear, scarcity, and lack. And even if you found something that you shouldn't have been looking for in the first place, that you shouldn't have been looking for in the first place, why did you relinquish so easily without a fight? You ladies don't fight for your relationship. You don't fight like cats for your relationship. You simply don't. You give up so easily. So easily you give up. And you give up even when you have children involved. You give up so easily. It takes nothing. It doesn't even have to be proof involved. It could be simply an accusation. You give up just like that. And you begin attacking the person who you believe is involved, as opposed to sitting down in a civil kind of way, non-emotional, just simply trying to find out the facts, get to the bottom of it. Like you'd sit down with a bank executive or the bank president to find out what happened to your funds that you've invested in, that all of a sudden when you look at your spreadsheet, you don't see the numbers there. You'd sit down civil, you'd sit down professionally with your bank executive to find out what happened to your funds. You'd sit down with your mortgage company to find out if the bank was trying to take your home. You wouldn't go in there like a banshee. You wouldn't go in there violent. You'd sit down civilized to find out what happened. Why am I losing? If your man is losing interest in you, don't you want to know why? Don't you want to know why? Or would you just simply become emotional, then react without finding out why, and put all the blame on him and the actions that you find instead of putting any accountability on yourself? Ladies, you don't fight for your relationships because it's easier not to acknowledge that you had a part to play in the failure of your relationship. It's much easier to take that route. And so many of you right now today, you're alone. And the same man that you wouldn't fight for, many of them are off in a new relationship. The same value that you could not see that there was any value left because of an indiscretion, somebody else saw the value. And now that same man is remarried. That same man is in another committed relationship. Some other woman has your investment, and they got it without making an investment. So you get no interest on your investment. You simply just lose. You got to learn to fight harder than you are, ladies. That's it. You got to learn to fight harder. Men, black men, do not cheat for sex. They cheat for every void. Fit. Are you taking care of your fitness? Are you keeping your man attracted to you? Are you still the eye candy that you were when he met you? Are you fighting to stay that attracted to him? Or is it not important now because years have gone by? Now you take it for granted. Are you friendly? Are you still friendly? Are you feminine? Or have you now become masculine to where you overtalk and you're argumentative and combative and confrontational with your man? Does he have to test the temperature with his toes to see whether it's hot, cold, warm, to find out what mood you're in that day? Is that what he's going through? What is his experience with you? Or are you pushing him out the front door and refusing to admit that you play a part in keeping him there? Black men do not simply cheat for sex. If sex alone was the reason, you would have been sufficient. You would have been sufficient, ladies. He wouldn't have had to go any further than you if it was just sex. Stop deluding yourself that it's just sex. Nah, it's not just sex. It's the intangibles. It's not the physical. It's not the physical. Stop fighting for the relationships that you have. But what is the alternative? The alternative is that you end up by yourself. That's the alternative. Here's the other alternative. You end up living as a group. You've heard me mention it before. You've heard me mention it with a group of other women. Sharing an apartment or sharing a house together and splitting the bills. And then you find yourself and a bunch of other women sitting on a couch watching Netflix and chilling. I mean, if that's what you want to do. But don't you think it's much more productive and easier for you if you simply save the relationships that you're in? Learn to listen to what your man is saying to you when he's talking to you in the relationships, because like I said earlier, every relationship comes with ebbs and flows. There's no perfect plane in any relationship. It requires work on both sides if you think you can have a relationship and it won't require you to work, if you don't think a relationship that's successful won't require you to be upset, become angry, even to become disinterested at times in your relationship, then you're fooling yourself. That's a Disneyland concept about relationships. Men do not cheat simply for sex. They cheat for femininity and all the things that perhaps you have already deemed unimportant. And as a result, you push your man out into someone else's arms who may not even be genuine or sincere in what they're showing him. But if but for just a short period of time, he can get the thing that he's not getting from you because you don't think it's important anymore. You don't even think it's important to smile and be excited when he walks in the front door. But Joanne does. She might have a plan, an agenda that's not genuine, but your man doesn't know that yet. So for just a short period of time, she'll give him what she believes you're not giving him, such as something simple as a smile when he walks in, excitement when she sees him. You know how if you have a dog and you come home and you walk in the front door and the dog is so excited to see you that he's shaking uncontrollably in front of you, just jumping and jumping and jumping, and he's urinating on the floor. He's so excited. Do you give your man that kind of effect? Because if you don't, Joanne will. And some of you are saying that hear this stream, you're saying, well, if that's what he wants, then let him go. Well, fine. That is a choice. But mind you, I said in the early part of this stream, there is a trade-off. If that's as far as your dedication and commitment goes to saving the relationships you have, then you have a right to that choice. But I don't know if you understand what it means going forward into old age. I don't think you really understand what it means. I really don't think you understand what it means. So, but if that's your choice, I don't think there's a man alive that's going to fight you on that choice. You have the right to choose. To fight or retreat. To fight or relinquish. To fight or wave the white flag. It is your choice. But choices, again, come with trade-offs in this life that we live. And no matter what we've experienced, the world owes neither one of us understanding. Accountability is everything on both sides. That's the only way to get better and to improve the outcomes going forward. I thank you all for getting on the stream tonight. Black men do not cheat for sex alone. Start understanding what else contributes, who else contributes, and more importantly, is it you? Again, thank you all for getting on the stream tonight. My name is Charles Chambliss. This is another episode of Let's Talk About It. And with that being said, I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you all for getting on again the stream tonight. Hit that like button if you liked it. If you don't, I thank you anyway. Again, I look forward to seeing you all, what's today, Saturday. I look forward to seeing you Monday night at 9 o'clock. Forgive me for running a little late tonight. I do respect your time, again, but I do thank you for getting on anyway. My name is Charles Chambliss. Let's talk about it, and we are